So in other words, you're saying that within, say, 15-16 months, the Supreme Court can give a final verdict. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, that's the expectation.
Sitaram Yechury, in that interim, between now and say that outer limit of 16 months, assuming the analysis from Soli Sorabjee is one that you agree with, what would be your advice to the litigants?
You see, the point here, Karan, what we must understand is, yes, reconciliation was something that was tried in these 6 decades, and like everybody in this panel also agrees, and we have failed in it. Because remember, reconciliation is always accompanied by its twin expression, which is truth. Truth and reconciliation go together. And if the truth is not accepted, the truth is that the Babri Masjid was demolished. And the earlier truth, if you cannot establish that, then resolution, reconciliation always fails. But then the second aspect comes in. Now we have to look ahead rather than solving issues of the past or settling scores of history. The issue is that the future of building a better India. I think that must take up our energies.
Okay.
And I don't think they should be allowed to be frittered away in these matters. If it works out, good, or let us wait for the Supreme Court verdict, which all of us agree will have to be accepted by all.
Okay, let's pick up on one of the thoughts that was there in Sitaram Yechury's answer. Reconciliation is dependent upon the acceptance of truth. In your eyes, and I'm coming back to a contentious issue, but it is the critical issue, how much of the truth was established by the Allahabad High Court judgment today?
Well, unless I read the whole judgment, I can't really make it out, because then there are diverse opinions there.
But do you accept the Ram Janmasthan as truth?
No, from my knowledge that I have, in the case that I have pleaded, that there is a Ram Janmasthan Mandir nearby. How can this be a Ram Janmasthan?
What about the point about that this is not a legitimate
mosque? The point
mosque?
that I wanted to make was something else.
What about the fact that this is not a legitimate mosque? Do you accept that as truth?
If some place has stood the test of time for 500 years, how can any judge or a set of judges by a dash of pen declare that it does not exist? But I am still bound as a loyal citizen, bound to the rule of law. I still accept the final judicial verdict.
Whenever it comes.
If Ram has withstood the test of time for 5,000 years, I think even that also is a truth. So the question is, who is to interpret what is true?
We've got just literally 1 minute left, if that. I want to go back to what you just heard from Mr. Syed Shahabuddin. How can a set of judges comment on issues of faith or decide whether a mosque that has stood, let me finish, a mosque which has stood for 450 years is suddenly deemed not to be a mosque? Isn't that the core of the problem? That despite all the attempt in this judgment to find ways of reconciliation, the old divisions and boundaries, the old questions and doubts remain.
No, the entire idea of reconciliation revolves around these facts. And if these facts are to be accepted, I think two things have to be kept out of this discussion.
Very quickly.
One is the entire spectrum and the glare of the media,
and number two,
politicians.
And number two, and the politicians. Yes. I think that is a note on which we can perhaps
all
agree.
Sorry?
No politicians.
No politicians. All right. We have in studio suddenly at this critical moment agreement between the two who represent contending sides. Keep the politicians out of it. They also suggested keep the media out of it. On that note, we come to the end of this particular show. Smiling as Mr. Shahabuddin says, keep the media in. My thanks to all my guests for joining me. And if you have been watching, many thanks indeed. Goodbye. Good night.